Today I clean up the left-hand side casting and make a gasket for it.
I've just used a paper rag like that, dabbed around inside that crankcase to mop up any oil and dirt in this side of the crankcase so I can start slotting a few bits back into place. This bearing has some bits of debris around its perimeter there in the center of the screen, for example, and around this side, which is not wiping off with the screwdriver, and I don't know what it is. The bearing itself seems free and the shaft spins fine, as I can possibly show there. So I'm not sure that the bearing's at fault. Anyway, I'm going to lay some of those transfer cogs back in there, put the circlip on the big one, the shift mechanism and the interlock back on there, double cog thing on this lay shaft, build up that end of the box. I still need to put a chain in the bottom here, so I can't put the starter clutch and the flywheel back on. I'll get some of this stuff unloaded, left hand side case, so I can start cleaning it. This bearing feels absolutely fine, but it also had some black marks just in that location on the rim. I've just taken it to the wire brush, the wire wheel, and given that plenty of scrubbing on the wire wheel. I think it's actually corrosion. It's in a weird place because this bearing's not on the bottom of the gearbox. You sort of wonder how water, if it's caused that while it's been in the machine, potentially laid there. No problem on the other side. This is the side that presses into the outer case. This is the side that is up against the shaft. I'm just going to reinstall that. I just thought I'd take a note of what I'm seeing. One of the comments on the YouTube was, show us how the shift fork works. Under that cog there is a series of little hollows, and on there is what's called dogs. And those dogs engage in those hollows when this dog ring is slid up like that. This is the transfer. I've got to swap hands. This is the transfer box. So all that happens in the transfer box is the dog there is moved up to engage in those craters. This dog has got teeth on the other side which engage with that lower cog. This fork moves the dog up and down. So that's what the shift fork does. It moves between up and down like that. This is just a two-wheel drive version, so that's engaging low range and high range. The rest of them are all inside the middle of the box, so if your bike's not going into gear, you've got a bit of work ahead of you working out what's gone wrong. There's traces of corrosion on this little detent, both there and on the back side. It's in an area that's well oiled, and I can't see it being exposed to atmosphere. And if these bits were rusted, why aren't a whole lot of other bits? The actual head of the shoulder bolt that goes through that is fine. One of the interesting things about this starter gear is that mark around there is on the back side. This is where the sprag clutch operates. That mark around there is where that gear rubs on these three little pillars, and I suspect they're there to actually stop the starter gear rotating, effectively act as a brake. After the starter motor started the engine, that cog could potentially be spinning around in there. Those little pillars effectively act as a brake on that starter gear. So I've got the parts that were stored up there in the left-hand case back in the motor. These ones I think are permanently there. The flywheel's just sitting there. Timing chain's got to go in underneath it. I want to, as a next stage, clean out this left-hand side case. I'm going to remove the stator just so that I can clean around it better. That's the timing chain just laying there. And there's one bearing still in this left-hand side case. I don't know whether it'll drop out, but it would also help in cleaning it. So that's where I'm working to next. There's that left-hand side cover cleaned up. I knocked the bearing here out by just giving that a little bit of warmth with a heat gun, and it just fell out, and I've put it back there. So internally that's cleaned up nice, and externally it's cleaned up pretty nice. I couldn't get the wire brush in that area there particularly well, but otherwise it'll do.
I chose not to buy a Suzuki OEM gasket for this side cover. I traced an original gasket when I was doing my 94 bike. I purchased a roll of gasket paper from Super Cheap. It's 0.8mm thick. I needed 3 different size hole punches, a pen and a pair of scissors. I shall keep my template for next time, and thanks to my wife for letting me bang away at the kitchen table. I did the final rinse of the casting in hot soapy water in the kitchen sink. I'll get out of the kitchen and back to the shed tomorrow. Make your own fun.